Now, before I get into this video, I want to go ahead and bring up the fact that this is basically a video where I guess I'm re-sharing a theory, if you want to put it that way. The theory within this video is actually the theory that I shared within my very first video on this channel that I ever posted. It was very disorganized, to say the very least, had no flow to it whatsoever, and just was really unthought out and not a really thought out video overall. So, I decided that I might as well go and redo it, seeing as the theory is by far one of the most amazing theories I've ever came up with. And to add on to that, over time, I've actually developed a little bit more onto this theory. So, without further ado, let's go and get right into the theory. Natsu dying within fairy tales, definitely something a lot of people within the community talk about. Just to recap, for those of you guys who are unaware, within the Alvarez Arc, Natsu has, I guess, found himself in a very bad situation, to say the very least. Basically, for those of you guys who do not remember, Natsu was actually killed off by dragons over 400 years ago. In response to Natsu dying, Natsu's older brother Zeref actually recreated Natsu through the use of Etherion, which is why Natsu is now known as E.N.D, which is short for Aetherius Natsu Dragneel. Now, with Zeref recreating Natsu, Natsu's life then, I guess, became attached to Zeref for lack of a better term. I guess you consider Zeref to be like Natsu's lifeline at this point, if you will. If Zeref dies, Natsu dies. Bottom line, Natsu is then involved in a project where he, along with all the other Dragon Slayers, would be sent 400 years into the future via the Eclipse Gate and go on to learn Dragon Slayer magic to then go on to slay Acnologia. And considering the fact that Zeref is the main antagonist of the Alvarez Arc, this definitely poses as a problem for Natsu along with the rest of the Fairy Tail Guild. Natsu really has no way around dying as far as we can tell within the current arc that we're in, seeing as to win the Alvarez War, the Fairy Tail Guild must essentially annihilate Zeref, which will even then prove to be a problem in and of itself, seeing as Zeref was cursed by God Ank'Srom, and he's essentially immortal. So, if Fairy Tail is to somehow kill Zeref despite the fact that he was cursed by God Ank'Srom, the question then is, how will the guild prevent Natsu from dying? I personally highly doubt Hiro would just let Natsu die. We've seen it time and time again. Hiro does not seem to actually want to kill off really any of the main characters, except examples being Gajiel, who was recently brought back to life, Gray, who was brought back to life in the Eclipse Arc when he was killed, and most recently Juvia, who was actually brought back within the recent chapter 500 of Fairy Tail. Just from this alone, it is very obvious that Hiro has no intentions whatsoever of killing off any big character anytime soon within Fairy Tail, especially the main male character. So, if Fairy Tail is to beat Zeref, then we have to ask ourselves, how will they then go on to save Natsu from being killed alongside Zeref? So, this is where my theory kicks in. I think that Lucy will save Natsu from dying kind of the same way that she saved Loki from dying. Just a general recap once again for those guys who don't exactly remember how Loki was actually saved by Lucy. To start, Loki wasn't actually always contracted to Lucy. He initially was contracted to another celestial spirit wizard named Karen, who in contrast to treating him like a respectable human like Lucy does, Karen actually treated Loki like a tool and a servant, if you will. She showed no respect whatsoever for Loki, so Loki actually decided that he would go ahead and rebel. He decided that he would not return to the celestial spirit realm until Karen decided she would go ahead and show some respect towards him along with the rest of her spirits. This actually caused Karen to die because of lack of magic, and in return it actually caused Loki to never be allowed to return to the celestial spirit realm. He was now stuck on Earth, running completely off of his own magic, and I guess waiting for himself to inevitably die, seeing as he would run out of magic, much like how Karen did at some point. Surprisingly enough, Loki actually ended up surviving for 3 years on Earth off of his own magic, and during those 3 years as well, he joined Fairy Tail, and that's how he met Lucy. And as he was fading away and basically dying, Lucy actually came in and saved him. She used a large portion of her magic to void Loki's contract with Karen and put him under her own contract. That is how Loki was made into Lucy's spirit, essentially. This as well is kind of how I believe we can see the whole ordeal with Natsu's inevitable death actually being solved. Essentially, I think that it's possible that Natsu could actually be turned into Lucy's spirit much like how Loki was. You have to remember, Natsu really isn't a human. He has a persona of a human, sure, but when it comes down to it, he is the demon E.N.D. So to sum it up, I believe that it's possible that Natsu could be turned from a demon to a spirit in essentially the same way that Loki was actually saved by Lucy. And considering the fact that all the other celestial spirits are actually star constellations, I think that's possible that Natsu could actually turn into the Draco constellation and become Lucy's strongest celestial spirit. Now, to go on and add more credibility to this theory, I want to actually go ahead and quickly bring up the very first mission that Natsu, Lucy, and Happy took together. Now, on this mission, they met Virgo, who at the time was actually contracted to another celestial mage. They wanted to have this huge fight. I'm not going to go into the details of it and whatnot, though. But during this fight, Virgo was beaten by Natsu. Now, after being beaten, though, the celestial mage who Virgo was actually contracted under at the time actually called upon Virgo. And considering Natsu was on Virgo at the time, he traveled along with her through the celestial spirit realm to the celestial mage who called upon her. Now, the thing about this is the fact that normal humans should not be able to survive in the celestial realm without proper clothing that of which Natsu did not have at the time. Yet, he still survived. Even Lucy actually questioned him how he did it, and Hiromasha kind of left it at that. But this tells me that Natsu is basically, I guess, capable of surviving in the celestial realm to a certain extent, so it's possible that if Lucy actually contracts him, that he could survive as a celestial spirit of hers. Nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think about this? As I said before, I redid this because I didn't like it the first time. Let's be honest here. It was absolutely awful. I'll actually have the link to it in the description below if you guys want to check that out. And as well, I also did it because I have a much larger audience. And this is a theory that I completely came up with on my own. And I wanted to go and share it with my much larger audience I have now. But as I said before, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, a like is much appreciated, along with a subscription to my channel. Thank you guys so much for all the amazing support. It means a lot to me. I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next video. Peace.